What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best exploding minion witch build in part of Exile 2. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of this setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the leveling and end game. And then finally we will go over the passive tree, attributes, your skill rotations, and even what Atlas passive should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you are looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video description or the pinned comment. This setup is known as the Bombarding Minions build that mainly uses a Skeletal Arsonist for both AoV and single target damage, while then we can even further increase our DPS by casting Detonate the Dead, which explodes dead enemy corpses and let us speed farm every single content in the game. This build is the best of both worlds because it combines very quick clearing speed with aggressive playstyle while also having minions that protect you, and at the endgame you will be able to reach from 15 to 30,000 energy shield, which basically will turn us into an unstoppable puppet master. And on top of this, unlike other witch setups, our build will also focus on the Grim Feast buff that is used to provide an extremely strong defensive layer by doubling our energy shield in the maps, so that you can easily complete the highest tier maps in the game. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch, and our Ascendancy is the Infernalist. Then for the first skill we have the Pain Offering with the support gem called the Fawn of Rage, Persistence, Ablation, and Fawn of Blood. Then second we get the Skeletal Storm Mage with the Conduction, Stormfire, Overcharge, and the Lightning Penetration. Then next we get the Skeletal Cleric with the Ingenuity, Last Gasp, and the Minion Mastery. Then next we have the Skeletal Warrior with the Maim, Culling Strike, Blind, and the Physical Mastery. Next up we have the Skeletal Arsonist with a Scatter Shot, Heft, Fire Infusion, Feeding Frenzy, and the Concentrated Effect. Next we got the Grim Feast with the Clarity. Next we also have the Detonate the Dead with the Spell Echo, Brutality, Magnified Effect, and the Arcane Tempo. Next up we have the Summon Infernal Hound with the Meat Shield, Fire Exposure, Strip Away, Splinter, and Demolisher. Then next we got Flammability with the Heightened Curse, Spell Cascade, Inspiration, and the Focus Curse. Then for one of the last ones we have the Flame Wall with the Fortress, Arcane Surge, and Mobility. And finally for the last one we are using the Raging Spirits with the Elemental Focus, Immolate, Martial Tempo, and the Fire Mastery. Most of this setup is structured around using the skeletons and activating Detonate the Dead to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next we also have a leveling build in case if you are starting your journey from level 0 and you want to use it up until about level 25, where you should start getting our most important skills. So first off we have the Contagion with the Arcane Tempo. Then next we have the Skeletal Sniper with the Martial Tempo and the Fire Infusion. Next we have the Flame Wall with the Fortress. And then finally we're using the Skeletal Warrior with the Meat Shield and the Elemental Army. This is your basic setup up until you get our build's two most important skills. In the early stages of progression, we are using the Skeletal Sniper and the Flame Wall as our main ability combo, as they're very powerful, especially at the beginning. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node. Then go like this until we get to all of these, so the Power of the Dead, Raw Destruction, Open Mind, Pure Energy, Living Death, and the Dampening Shield. Then from here let's get this whole circle and then keep on going until we get to this node called the Grip of the Evil. Then now let's circle back and this time go to this top part, while also grabbing the Necrotic Touch and the Dead Can Dance. Then from this point we want to get the whole right side, and then when you got that, then from that point you can just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Loyal Hellhound, or extra minion and reduce damage taken by 20%. Then second, get the Altered Flesh, which will help us to deal with physical damage if you have chaos resistance. Or if you're stacking maximum fire resistance, then you will take less cold and lightning damage. Then third, we want to go with the Bedat's Will, which will give us a lot more spirit, but we will sacrifice 25% life reservation, but for sure this is 100% worth it. And then finally, we want to get the Bedat's Hand. In PoE 2, earning skill points take a lot of hard work, so it will be very smart not to spend your points recklessly. Of course, you can refund your passive points later, but only at a cost, so following a specific setup is extremely useful. If you are following this build, then make sure to not to deviate from it, as some of the decisions that I made might not make sense at first, but is going to pay off later. So feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives. And the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start, we want to first of all get to the left side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. And then from this point and onwards, you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so again it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Rattling Scepter, which gives us the Skeletal Warrior skill. And for bonus stats we want to increase spirits, max mana, allies deal more damage, and get increased critical damage bonus. And then finally we gain more levels of all of our minion skills. On top of this, we also have an offhand called the Oak Sworn with the armor and energy shield. And for the extras from this we get a new skill called the Raised Shield. Then also increased block chance, increased armor and energy shield, more to spirits and chaos resistance. But the shield is not required and you can easily go with any other option just with similar stats. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want max energy, max life, more levels of all of our minion skills and fire resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Altar Robe with the energy shield, and for bonus stats we got faster start of the energy shield recharge, then also increased max energy shield, more to spirit and cold resistance. Then for the belt we have the Fine Belt with our flask gaining faster charges for every second. And then for more we got max life, max mana, more to charm slots and fire resistance. Then for the gloves we got the Expert Intrusive Gloves with the energy shield. And for more we got max life, max energy shield, also increased max energy shield and fire and cold resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feathered Sandals with the energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max energy shield and chaos resistance. Then for our first and second ring we got the same thing, which is the Venter's Gamble. But again, this item is not required for this build to function. So if you can't or just don't want to get it, then you can go with any other ring as well. And then for bonus stats we want increased rarity, max life, more to spirit, fire, cold and lightning resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Lunar Amulet with the max energy shield. And for more we want more to spirit, max life, plus levels of all of our minion skills and fire and cold resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap. This is a starter setup which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear is sacred with resistant runes. However, once your elemental resistances have been capped and resistant runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase your maximum life with body runes or consider sacting a soul core. So right now on our weapon we are using the Iron Rune, and then for the rest of our equipment we're using the soul core. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town each time you level up, as vendors can change their offerings based on your level, so this is the best way to find upgrades. And then after level 65, you just wanna keep continuing repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth tutorial, check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Antidote charm for when I become poisoned. Then second, we get the Taving Charm for when I become frozen. And then finally, we have the Dosing Charm for when I become ignited. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting. So feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So we want to start our highest damage rotation by first of all casting the Flame Wall, to summon Raging Spirits and then cast the Flame ability, to debuff your enemies. Then we cast the Pain Offering to buff your minions for a massive damage increase. And then finally in maps we want to use Detonate the Dead as soon as an enemy has died to explode their corpses, for improved even faster clearing speed. On top of this, if your minions get stuck, then you can just set up your second weapon set to have a 0 summoned minions in the skill tab. By doing this, all of your minions will despawn when you spawn your second weapon set, so then you can quickly swap back to your main weapon set, which will cause all of your previous minions to respawn right next to you. So just keep this in mind. Please let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 best witch builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.